Hey there, I'm Steve, and welcome to Jamson Entertainment. And welcome to the conversation. Just before we get started, there are many ways you can help. You can like and subscribe so you never miss a conversation. But most importantly, please share this video. Get the word out there so we can talk about all the things that we love. Today on Throwback Thursday, we're looking at The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, the extended edition. Buckle up, it's 4 hours of awesome. This is a 4-hour movie that is worth it, and you do not feel the runtime. I only felt the runtime when I had to change disc. Yes, I have the Blu-ray Special Extended Edition. I'm not sure if the 4K Special Edition you have to switch disc, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. With the long runtime, you also have a big cast, and the order in which they're in surprised me. You'd think it would start with the A-list cast and then work its way down, but just thinking of it right now, it kind of does start with the A-list cast. It starts off with the voice of Sauron, Alan Howard. Now, there are many first I'm noticing about this movie, or thinking of realizing, probably because I'm actually watching it to review it instead of just to enjoy it. I'm still enjoying it, of course, but because I'm looking at it more analytically, I actually asked, and mostly because I just watched the Hobbit movies, who's the voice of Sauron? Because the Hobbit movies spend so much time building up this amazing trilogy, and now I'll say Benedict Cumberbatch was not only Smaug, he was also Sauron, but he was more known as the Necromancer. But it's later revealed that it is Sauron. There's a whole scene about it. That's one actor down. Oh, yeah, I forgot to point out. So when I looked up the voice of Sauron, Alan Howard popped right up. When I go on IMDb and look at the cast for Fellowship of the Ring, he's the first person to show up, but he's credited as the Ring. At first I was confused, but then I reminded myself, and mostly because I was watching the movie, the Ring and Sauron are one. So it makes sense that the same voice actor does both. Okay, that's the longest I've ever done for a name. Also starring Sean Astin, Sala Baker, Sean Bean, Billy Boyd, Andy Serkis, Morton Shorkus, sorry for mispronouncing your name and all names, Viggo Mortensen, Orlando Bloom, Kate Blanchett, Mark Ferguson, Ian Holm, Christopher Lee, Lawrence McClure, Brent McIntyre, Ian McKellen, Sarah McLeod, Dominic Monaghan, John Rhys Davies, Harry Sinclair, Liv Tyler, Hugo Weaving, and Elijah Wood. Now, because I give a little more information from the past movies and the subsequent movies, I'm going to preface this one. If you didn't watch the Hobbit reviews I did, or more specifically, if you haven't watched The Hobbit by now, this is a spoiler for The Hobbit, kinda, because within the first 10 minutes of this movie, they give it away anyway. So it's, I guess you could say it's a spoiler for The Hobbit, but it's not a spoiler for Lord of the Rings. And this tidbit of information is all the Hobbit movies needed to tie them to Lord of the Rings. In The Hobbit, in the first movie, Bilbo, played by Martin Freeman, and as a quick aside, I never realized just how perfectly casted Martin Freeman is to play a young Ian Holm Bilbo Baggins. Just like Ewan McGregor was perfectly casted to play a young Alec Guinness Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, Bilbo runs into Gollum, who plays a major role in the Lord of the Rings books, which I think I mentioned the first review of The Hobbit. I haven't read any of the books, but it is within a long list of books I would like to read. When Bilbo runs into Gollum, or just before, he finds the One Ring, the Ring of Power created by Sauron. Gollum doesn't know he found it, and so they have a game of riddles. If Bilbo loses, Gollum will kill and eat Bilbo. If Bilbo wins, he gets to go free. And so that one scene tied everything together, and all the stuff I complained about in the 3 movies could have been cut out, and yada yada yada. So after the prologue, we are in the Shire, and we're going to celebrate Bilbo's birthday. And now I'm realizing that they switch the perspective in The Hobbit from Lord of the Rings. In The Hobbit, in the first movie, when Bilbo's writing the book, he hears a knock at the door and he tells whoever it is to go away. He doesn't want to have any visitors. And Gandalf says, "But what about very old friends?" So in The Hobbit, you see Bilbo say that. Now on the flip side, inside in Fellowship of the Ring, Gandalf is waiting outside, and that same scene happens. So it's really cool that you get to see the reverse of that scene. I really like that. I like those little touches. I love the fact that there is strong continuity through these movies. Now, there are parts where the continuity isn't that strong, like, for instance, when they're telling the prologue, the story of the ring, and how it ultimately gets to Bilbo, they don't go over the riddles. They could have easily just written in there after a game of riddles, he, like, has the ring or something. I don't know. In the movie, they simply have Bilbo finding it and running away. I don't know why they did that. If that's one of the few continuity errors that's not too egregious, I can let that go. Actually, I let a lot go in this movie because I'm watching this with a more critical eye. Remember in my one review, pretty sure it was The Desolation of Smaug, I pointed out the bad effects, and I mentioned that Peter Jackson used forced perspective filming in the Lord of the Rings movies. Well, he does do that because the video I linked below in that review shows you how they did it and the way they invented a new technology to not only have forced perspective but also to move and keep forced perspective, because before that it was only a stationary technique. But here I am noticing that characters are combined in post. But again, I feel I'm only seeing it because I'm looking at it with a more critical eye, and I learn more and more about film the more movies I watch. And I've watched all the behind the scenes on Lord of the Rings, so I know more of the tips and tricks that Jackson used in these films as opposed to the Hobbit films. I just kind of intuited, and this is another gripe I have about the Hobbit movies that I forgot to mention. Hobbits are supposed to be about 3 feet tall. Dwarves are supposed to be about 4 feet tall, probably at their shortest. In The Hobbit, Bilbo is roughly the same height as all the dwarves. The only dwarves that really tower over him are Thorin and Dwalin. Now, back to the special effects in this one. So it's a mixture of the adding the characters in post. They use a lot of body doubles. People, I don't know what the actual story or arguments that were made to use little people as opposed to regular sized people for the hobbits. But John Rhys Davies plays Gimli. Elijah Wood, Sean Astin, Dominic Monaghan, and Billy Boyd are the 4 hobbits. They're roughly the same height. Maybe they're about my height. I'm 5'7". John Rhys Davies is naturally taller than all of them. The 4 actors playing the hobbits come up to about his shoulder or so. So at least with those 5 actors, they were able to shoot them in real time without doing anything in post with no problem, because the height difference was there. That was fine. Where's I going with this? Alright, so you have the actors being put together in post to show the height difference. It looks hidden better. I don't know what it is. The Hobbit had studio interference. This one not so much, because at least with the first movie, they had no faith in it. They didn't think it was going to go anywhere. They thought it was going to fall on its face. But the special effects look better. I think I really see them because I'm looking for them, kind of. I mean, there's an entire scene where Bilbo and Gandalf are talking to each other. They don't do a shot reverse shot to do the conversation, and it really looks like there's that real height difference. Looks like you have like a regular sized man talking to a little 3 foot, 3.5 foot hobbit. They just blended the seams so much better for the most part in the Lord of the Rings. There are some times where it's like, yeah, that didn't age well, but this was 2001, so it's really, really good for 2001. They were pushing the boundaries, especially when you get to Gollum in the next movie. Gollum in this one is more or less a concept art of what we're going to get in The Two Towers and Return of the King, because there's not much CGI characters that look as good as Gollum today. And this is over 20 years ago. That's amazing. I mean, which is to mention that The Lord of the Rings, I'm not sure if it's all 3 movies combined or if it's like, I don't know. I can look it up and put up in post. But it holds the most Oscars for a film, period. And I don't think anyone has come close to touching it. I think it's like 11 Oscars or something ridiculously awesome like that. And it's earned every single one of them. If you like fantasy and you want to see the grandfather of fantasy, J.R.R. Tolkien is noted as the father of high fantasy, and Peter Jackson, which now I'm thinking about it, there's more things I need to talk about. Peter Jackson, he just loves Lord of the Rings so much. And you can see it in every single frame of this movie. This is what I'm going to get into. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous movie. Every single shot. Like, this movie is as close to perfect as you can possibly get, even in its imperfections. You overlook a lot of the imperfections, or at least I do, because this movie is so masterful. It uses, to my knowledge, like all the techniques, or at least very close to all the techniques that filming offers. And it's gorgeous in the big sweeping scenery shots, it's gorgeous in the simple shots, it's gorgeous in the imagery, it's gorgeous in the storytelling, the visual storytelling, the verbal storytelling, the acting, the special effects, practical and digital, the costumes, the setting, the sets. I can just gush and gush and gush about how beautiful this movie is and how near perfect it is. I mean, you saw the thumbnail. That thumbnail, my shirt's going to change, but more or less it's just going to be that for all three of these movies. I'm just going to tell you that right now. This is one of the few times I'm going to say right now, get this extended edition on 4K. I need to get it myself because it's absolutely 100% worth it. There's just the one annoying thing is the fact that you have to change, at least with the Blu-ray one, you have to change disc to continue the movie, and you have to do that with all three movies. But it's worth it. It's a 4-hour movie that you don't feel the runtime until you have to change the disc. I was watching this and I was just curious, how long has the movie been running? It felt like maybe a half hour. I was already an hour in, it was like, whoa, that's amazing. It did not feel like an hour had gone by. It's so encapsulating. It captures your attention so well. There are not many movies that do this. Like Star Wars and the good Star Trek movies just grab your attention and don't let go. As for the storyline, I can oversimplify it. Sauron's the big bad. 3,000 years ago in this world of Middle-earth, he made 3 rings for elves, 7 rings for dwarves, and 9 rings for men, each of them with the power to govern their kingdoms. But he made another ring with the inscription that by the time it gets to Frodo. But the inscription can only be seen, it needs a heat source. It used to be visible all the time, and I never thought about it until right now. I think it was visible all the time because Sauron was wearing it. But the inscription reads, 1 ring to rule them all, 1 ring to find them, 1 ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. So he gave these rings out as gifts to the 3 races. And then he deceived them all by making one that will rule them all. And there's a whole war put to it, which during the war, the son of the king, Isildur, I don't remember the king's name unfortunately. Please let me know in the comments below. He defeats Sauron by cutting the ring off his hand. And there's a really cool effect there. It's like when I was, like, again, watching it this time, probably because I'm watching to review it, I was like, I wonder if Tolkien wrote this as like a A-bomb allegory, or if Peter Jackson decided to make the visual effect of Sauron dying like the A-bomb. Now, bodies aren't being vaporized, they're just being blown over, but that's what I thought of when I saw it this time. Even though I've seen it countless times, I was like, I wonder if that's supposed to be an A-bomb allegory. Speaking of allegories, the Ring of Power obviously is about the corruption of power, but I also interpret it as what addiction can do to someone and how addiction affects other people differently. Isildur was brought to the fiery pits of Mount Doom by Elrond, well, one of the lead elves, and he was told to destroy it, and he chooses not to, and he ultimately dies because he can't let go of the ring. Then Smeagol, who becomes Gollum, finds it. Like, he has unnatural long life, he lives for like 500 years, but he is destroyed by the ring by all accounts. Like, his mind is gone, he has a split personality, he's beyond a shell of who he was. Then it goes to Bilbo. Now, in The Hobbit, it is amazing, the acting chops of both Martin Freeman and Ian Holm, but since I'm talking about the Hobbit part right now, Martin Freeman portrays the ring corrupting him masterfully. There was just one scene, they're in a forest and they get attacked by spiders. Wait, spiders? There's some creature that gets the ring off of Bilbo, and I think this was the first hint of his corruption. I'm not sure. This is the one that made me go, whoa. He kills, think it's a spider or some kind of creature. He picks up the ring and he just looks at it with this possessed, obsessed look and just holds it up and says, mine. That was, whoa, that is so cool. And again, that's all you need. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Now, with Ian Holm, he does another masterful job of showing the corruption of the ring. And then it goes to Frodo, played by Elijah Wood. He does a master job. I know, I'm being very repetitive. I'm just so excited and I love this movie so much. His slow descent into the corruption of the ring. The first movie, it is just a burden. I mean, it's a burden for all three films, but his corruption is far more gradual. And I mean, I don't like saying this about someone being corrupted, but it's satisfying to watch him be corrupted because he has a very good redemption arc. Just in short, because I've been going on for quite a while, I guarantee you I've edited out quite a lot of dead air because I go back and forth between trying to remember what I want to talk about and actually talking. The Lord of the Rings movies are a masterclass on making a film. It's enough to get you started, to get the filmmaking bug. Yeah, that's the phrase, right? And you can figure things out on your own. It's going to encourage you to look up the techniques. That's what this movie does. It is awe-inspiring. And I've already given my rating for not only this film, but all the films. But I just love talking about them so much. Those are my thoughts on The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and live your imagination.